I went to visit my buddy in high school. We were going to go backpacking up in the Beartooth Wilderness area near Big Sur, California. The drive down to Big Sur was pretty normal, other than the fact that we kept seeing these huge deer just standing in the road staring at us like they didn't want us to be there. Finally got to his house. We unpacked the car, got everything ready for the next day, and went to bed. Woke up at 5 a.m., made some breakfast, poured some coffee, hit the trailhead around 7 a.m. There are these two trails that come together in a loop, one called the High Trail and the other called the Low Trail. You take the High Trail in, which is about 7 miles. Then you camp along the ridgeline, hike down into a valley on the Low Trail, and then you hike back out the same way you came in. The total loop is just over 14 miles. The High Trail is basically a fire road. It's wide, it's pretty flat, and it's surrounded by Jeffrey pine trees. The Low Trail is much more overgrown, follows a creek the whole way down, and is really rocky. We started up the High Trail around 7 a.m. and made it to the junction with the Low Trail around 11 a.m. From there we headed down the Low Trail, and about an hour into it, we heard some pretty heavy footsteps in the trees above us. We stopped and looked around but couldn't see anything. Then we started hearing what sounded like screams in the forest, kind of like a woman or girl screaming. We picked up our pace and made it to camp just as it was getting dark. It was too dark to pitch our tent where we wanted to, so we ended up pitching it just off the trail a little ways. After we got everything set up, we made dinner, drank some wine, and went to bed. My buddy brought his acoustic guitar, and before we went to bed he started playing this really eerie song. We were half joking that if anything comes by the tent, I'll grab my bear spray and protect him. Well, about 3 a.m. we started hearing heavy footsteps near the tent. We both grabbed our headlamps and bear spray and started yelling and making tons of noise, and the commotion outside the tent slowly came to a halt. In the morning after, of course, not sleeping at all, we unzipped the tent to the creepiest scene. All around the tent were thousands of little pebbles that were not there the evening before. Also surrounding the tent were 20 or so 100 to 50 to 300 pound boulders that were also not there the night before. My buddy and I nopeed out of there, practically running the entire way to the car. I have never told anyone this story because the things that happened that night cannot be explained. I don't believe in Bigfoot, but after what happened that night, I'm not willing to say that it doesn't exist. I know that there are natural explanations for most things, but I don't know what could possibly explain what we experienced that night. Pebbles were not there the evening before, and they were not blown there by wind. They were meticulously placed around the tent, as if someone was trying to surround the tent with pebbles. As far as the boulders go, I don't even want to think about how something so heavy could be moved so easily. I honestly believe that something very strange and possibly dangerous is lurking in the forest, and I can't help but wonder if what happened to us was a warning to stay away. When we ran to the car, we were practically in tears, adrenaline pumping, hearts pounding, convinced that whatever was out there was going to come after us. Now, obviously, when I told my friend about this, he had the exact same story to tell. It was on something that either of them made up while they were on the trail or after the trail. But when I asked him why he thought it was a Bigfoot, he said, well, it's the only thing that could possibly explain what happened. Now, I've talked about this before, that sometimes people need to kind of like put their biases aside and understand that maybe something else caused this. But in this case, I actually agree with him. There's no way that any human being could have done this. Like, yeah, sure, maybe somebody could have thrown some pebbles around the tent, but not big rocks. And also, if somebody did this, why wouldn't they come and finish the job? Why would they leave the tent there with two dudes inside of it that were freaking out, yelling and screaming, and probably would have fought back? Now, if this was Bigfoot, this is something that happens fairly often. There are many cases of Bigfoot surrounding people's tents, pacing around their tents, even climbing into people's tents. And of course, in some of those cases, Bigfoot is simply trying to get warm, and in other cases, Bigfoot seems to be curious. It seems to want to investigate, but in all of these cases, they're seemingly harmless. But what's different about this case is that these rocks are huge. I mean, they're hundreds of pounds. If Bigfoot can move hundreds of pounds of rock with ease, I would say that that Bigfoot is definitely strong enough to kill a human being. And if it can do that, if it can pick up a rock and smash in your skull, I don't think it would hesitate to climb into your tent and eat your face. So this Bigfoot, if it is Bigfoot, seems to be malicious. That seems like a crazy thing to say because it doesn't seem like Bigfoot is malicious in general. But based on these actions alone, Something was out to get these guys. So here's my question for you. Do you think that what happened to Thomas and his friend was Bigfoot? And if not, what do you think it was? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss an episode. This is a great story, and it goes to show you that no matter how safe you think you are when you out in the woods, if something wants you, it's probably gonna get you. I'm not saying that Bigfoot got these guys. I'm just saying that there is a lot of things out there that we do and know about, and that includes people. People can do scary things. People can move rocks around. People can scream in the middle of the night and do all the things that these guys experienced. However, this is a good reminder for us all to make sure that no matter where we're camping, whether it is in a developing campground with 50 other people around you, or deep in the backcountry by yourself, always bring bear spray. Always be prepared to defend yourself and run if necessary. Even though these guys didn't end up seeing anything, they were still able to defend themselves with their bear spray and their screaming and hollering, and it worked. Whatever was out there left them alone. So again, whether you think this was Bigfoot or not, it's still a good reminder to be prepared for anything when you're out in the wilderness. With that said, there are some things that do happen out in the wilderness that we can't explain. And there are some things that we might want to consider to be Bigfoot, because if it's not Bigfoot, what else could it be? And that's the case with this story. Thomas and his friend experienced some truly unexplainable things. There's no way that I could move boulders that weigh hundreds of pounds, and I'm pretty strong. So there's no way that I could move hundreds of pounds of boulder like it was nothing. And also, why would they move around the tent? Why would they move in a circular fashion around the tent? Seems like if they were rolling them or moving them in any direction, they would have rolled them right off the hill and down the hill into the valley. But instead, they were placed carefully around the tent. With that said, it could have been humans. Humans can do scary things. Some drugs could explain this. There could have been a bunch of hippies that decided to pull a prank on these guys. Maybe they wrote a letter to the Sasquatch, and the Sasquatch showed up to defend its people. Who knows? But all jokes aside, I hope that they did learn from this experience to always be prepared. As always, I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank you for listening. I love you all. I want to hear your story. Please send it to me at the email below. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you haven't hit the like button, please hit the like button, and I will see you next time on the channel. Thank you so much for listening. I love you all. Goodbye.